You are probably already very familiar with the whip pan and how to use it to transition between different clips. I mean, Casey does it, Peter does it, Chris does it, everybody does it. But what if it's just you, and wait for it, you want to whip pan to a static tripod shot like this, but there's no one to film you. It's just you and the tripod. That's where the one-man fake whip pan transition comes in handy. Let me show you how to do it. By the way, I recently moved to Portugal and this is my new home. It's absolutely nuts. Anyway, what you're going to need is a tripod. You're going to film yourself speaking to camera the way you normally would. Then, without moving the camera, you're going to exit the frame and whip your camera to the side. There are 2 tricks to make this effect as seamless as possible. Make sure you have loosened the pan axis so that you can just walk over to your camera and swing it to the side. Obviously, only if that is safe to do and your gear won't fall. If you move out of the frame and your autofocus shifts, you'll want to put something in the frame at the same position that you were in to match the focus. So focus on that, switch to manual focus, and then remove the object from the frame. Now go ahead and whip the camera to the side. The rest of the magic happens in editing, so let's drop this footage into Final Cut Pro. On the timeline, I have my 2 clips that I'm going to whip pan. So I have the first clip that whip pans to the left, and then I have my static tripod shot. I've already cut the quick little whip to the right where I'm not in frame, and that looks like this. The first thing I need to do is reverse this clip so that this whip pan is in the right direction. Then I'll place that right here at the cut between these 2 clips. I'll move my playhead to where this tripod shot starts, and I'll Alt or Option click to create a copy of this clip. I'll use the shortcut Alt and the left square bracket to trim the clip to this point, and then I'll hit Shift H to create a hold frame. Then I'll hit Ctrl Shift S to separate the audio from this clip, and then I'll delete the audio. I'll use the shortcut Option and the right square bracket to trim this hold frame to the same duration as my whip pan. And next, I'll add a draw mask effect to the clip and I'll zoom in the viewer window. I'll draw this mask around myself. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want a nice, neat mask, so I'll take some time to make sure it looks really good. I'll also feather the mask slightly. I'll add a keyframe to the position parameter, and I'll take note of where my head is in relation to the background. And then I'll go back frame by frame, adjusting my position so that it looks like I've been in the scene, or at least in this whip pan clip, the entire time. In some cases, to make the whip pan flow nicely, you might need to trim a frame or 2 off the beginning and the end of the whip pan, just so that it flows nicely from one clip into the other. There is one more trick that really helps to sell this effect, but before we get to that, now is probably a good time to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare. Now, I'm a big fan of Skillshare, and I have been long before they decided to sponsor this channel, and that is because I love learning new skills. And that's exactly what Skillshare is all about. I'm constantly pushing myself to learn new things, and Skillshare has made that super easy to do, whether it's learning new editing or filming techniques, or whether it's learning new motion graphics skills, or upping my sound design game. And with the Skillshare membership, you have unlimited access to all the courses that they have, and it could be anything from filmmaking to other creative disciplines like drawing, art, or even how to run a business. The pandemic changed a lot for us. We started out as a travel vlog channel, and then we had to pivot during COVID into creating tutorials, and especially Final Cut Pro tutorials. And I personally fell in love with doing that. The plan was always to go back to the travel vlogs after the pandemic, but after the pandemic we had a baby and we found it quite challenging to travel with a baby, and we grew this exciting community together with you guys that I really wanted to continue growing. As you might have noticed, you don't see Donna as often on the channel, and that's because she's busy rocking it as a full-time mom. However, she is planning to open her own online store in the near future, and Skillshare is arming her with all the necessary skills to do that. Because they have courses on how to open an Etsy store, they have SEO courses, Facebook ad courses, and so much more. So if you want to up your skills or learn some new skills, then I'd highly recommend clicking on the link down below and getting a free month of Skillshare so that you can start learning today. The final trick that's really going to sell this effect is to add directional blur to the layer where you've masked yourself out. So I'll head over to my effects browser, I'll search for directional blur, it's in the blurs category, and I'll drop that onto the clip. I want to go to the last frame of this little whip pan transition here and set the blur amount to 0. I'll add a keyframe here, and then I'll scrub backwards to the beginning of the transition we're creating here, and I'll boost the blur up to 40. If I go through this frame by frame, you can see how this clip of me matches the background a little better because it's blurred like the movement of that whip pan that we shot. And that's how you create the one-man fake whip pan effect if you're shooting by yourself. Thanks for watching.